Welcome to Cinemonika.
I'm going to watch The Boy and the Heron, Studio Ghibli's new movie directed by Hayao Miyazaki. Oh my god, I can't believe it.
Wow.
Guys, this is the Chinese theater. I was filming with my phone and the flash went on. Seated! So I watched The Boy and the Heron, which is the new Studio Ghibli movie directed by Hayao Miyazaki. I went to the Animationist Film Festival here in Los Angeles. I just feel so lucky that I was able to watch it a couple months before it actually comes out in the US. And for that reason, this video will be spoiler free, so you don't need to worry. I'm just gonna talk about my impression of the movie, my review, without giving any major spoilers or plot points or anything like that. So don't worry, you don't have to click away. But yes, I went to the Chinese theater in Los Angeles, which is a really iconic movie theater, to watch this incredible Studio Ghibli film. Supposedly Hayao Miyazaki's last movie, but I say supposedly because he said that he was retiring after this one. Turns out someone from Studio Ghibli is saying that he's already working on the next one. This one really felt like it was his last film. So The Boy and the Heron, which had the original title of How Do You Live, and it's actually called that in Japan. How Do You Live is the perfect title for this movie, and it perfectly encapsulates what this movie is about. I am team How Do You Live. We will call it The Boy and the Heron because that is the English name. Okay, so brief synopsis. The Boy and the Heron is about this boy, Mahito, who has tragically lost his mother. Him and his dad get out of Tokyo to go live in a more rural area. He's really struggling with the loss of his mother. He's a very quiet and kept to himself kind of boy. He's having trouble in school. He doesn't really get along with anybody, and he's having these nightmares about his mom. One day he sees this really strange heron, very peculiar, and it seems to be trying to get the attention of this boy. He successfully gets the attention of the boy, and basically he enters this world of fantasy where things have seemingly no rhyme or reason. Everything's very random and strange and magical. And yeah, let's leave it there. If I go any further, I will give you guys spoilers, and I don't want to do that. This film really reminded me of Spirited Away in the sense of it's this young kid entering this world of fantasy where they do a lot of self-reflection and growth, and it just had that really mysterious and magical feel to it. As you guys know, Spirited Away is my absolute favorite Studio Ghibli movie, Hayao Miyazaki movie. I made a whole video about it, and so I was really excited that this movie was kind of taking that same approach. Essentially, it's this kid who really hates the reality that he's living in. I mean, his mom passed away, and there's so many changes going on around him, around his life. He's just not really enjoying life at the moment, and that's basically the catalyst for this magical journey that he starts. I really felt drawn to this fantasy world. It was very, like I said before, mysterious and a little bit creepy. You never really knew what could happen. I feel like this movie was a lot darker than previous Miyazaki films, which is why I think it reminded me of Spirited Away as well, because I truly feel like Spirited Away is more on the darker side of his films, especially with No Face and the fact that he turns into this, very scary monster who eats people. In The Boy and the Heron, there's a lot of danger and fights, and you just feel like you're thrown into this unknown where anything really could happen, and I was very excited about it. I really like that about Miyazaki because he can make something like this, like The Boy and the Heron, which is a little bit darker, but he can also make something like Ponyo, which is essentially a movie that is made mostly for kids, even though obviously adults like myself can enjoy it, but it's a lot more straightforward and bright. This one was definitely not as straightforward, and that doesn't mean the story is complicated or hard to understand. It's not. It's very easy to follow, but it definitely has a lot of different elements and changes of scenery, different characters and things like that. The beginning scene of this movie, the very first scene of this movie, is absolutely harrowing. harrowing. The very first scene of this movie is absolutely harrowing, which is something I was not expecting. Not only is it very, very sad and dark and honestly horrific, the animation style is something that I had actually never seen in a Studio Ghibli movie, which made me really excited to see what was gonna come next. Honestly, it just drew me in from the very beginning. It really reminded me of something like Grave of the Fireflies, even The Wind Rises. Yeah, it really starts, full force, very tough scene, and in a different kind of animation style. A lot of really, out there choices for Miyazaki, which I'm here for it. Speaking of the animation, I think obviously the animation style is absolutely gorgeous. This movie is probably one of the most beautiful that I've seen from Miyazaki, scenery wise. And that's a lot to say because you could say that about any of his movies really, but the character designs, I just love how he is not afraid to really create a really ugly character. Like the heron is hideous. I also like how there always seems to be characters from all ages in his movies. I really like how he gives so much personality and life to characters of all ages. In this movie specifically, I think I saw a side of Miyazaki I hadn't really seen in his movies before, which was comedy. This one was probably the funniest of his movies. I was not expecting that at all. And it was not forced or anything like that. It was just like subtle comedy. I really enjoyed that aspect of this movie because as deep as it was, as dark as it was at some points, it was also really funny. The music was absolutely gorgeous, but I feel like I don't really have to say that, and it's a given that it's going to have absolutely the most beautiful music you've ever heard in your life from Joe Hisaishi. I said before that this movie really feels like Miyazaki's last film. That's because it deals a lot with not only loss, but also legacy, the passing of the torch, so to speak. I feel like what Miyazaki was trying to say with this movie is that he has left this incredibly huge legacy of Studio Ghibli. He has created this world, and he has given it to all of us, of course, to enjoy. And he can't do that forever. I mean, he's 82. Who knows how many more movies he can actually make? And he's ready. Well, I guess he's not ready anymore, but he was ready to, leave that legacy behind, pass the torch, let the world grow even more in the hands of someone else. This message was very, very obvious, especially towards the ending of the movie, which is why I feel like it works perfectly as his last film. Also, it just feels very grand. I think this is one of his most ambitious movies. I feel like this is also his most personal movie. I could really see him manifested in this film. Like I said, it also deals with loss. This boy is dealing with the loss of his mother, and he just doesn't really know how to live anymore. This is why I think How Do You Live is such a perfect title for this movie. How do you live after your mother passes away? This boy goes into this journey and essentially learns how to live after this huge adventure, eye-opening adventure. He needed to find a way to enjoy his life and how to actually be happy. The reason why I say I see Miyazaki in this boy is because I feel like he is also telling himself he needs to learn how to live after he leaves Studio Ghibli behind, after he actually retires and just enjoys his last years of his life, I don't know if he actually knows how to do that yet, because again, he's not retired apparently, but I think that's what he was telling himself. There are some incredible side characters in this film. Something I love about Studio Ghibli films, like I said in my Spirited Away video, is that the villains are not really villains. The bad side or the good side, they're usually somewhere in between. Okay, so this is not a spoiler, but there's a species of character, which are parakeets, that I loved so much. They were so hilarious. I honestly lost it every time they were on screen. You guys will see why when you watch it, but I just love the parakeets so much. I also really like that this movie took its time, and I think that's something that almost all of Studio Ghibli movies do, where the pacing, it never rushes. It's just kind of a slow pacing, but never boring. And of course, faster pacing, slower pacing, I'm not saying one or the other is right or wrong. I just really appreciate how Studio Ghibli just takes its time with the story, with, advancing the plot and things like that. And sometimes we just exist with the characters. Overall, I feel like this film is honestly one of my favorites from Miyazaki. The man cannot make a bad movie. He has not made a single bad movie, in my opinion. Spirited Away is still my number one. It will always be number one. Nothing will ever dethrone that movie. But The Boy and the Heron is definitely up there. It was truly everything that I hoped it would be. To me, it was just perfect. I did give it a 4.5 stars on Letterboxd, but now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, why did I give it a 4.5? I feel like I should have given it a 5 because I can't really think of something I didn't like about this film. So I might go and change it on my Letterboxd. I cannot wait to watch it again when it comes out in December. I'm having like withdrawals because I really want to watch it again, but I can't. If you have seen it, because I know it premiered at Toronto, please let me know what you thought of this. If you haven't watched it yet, are you excited to watch this? I mean, I feel like if you're watching this video, you're probably excited to watch this film. Thank you for watching this video and hearing my thoughts on The Boy and the Heron. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.